Good evening. I'd like to begin by saying welcome to the Illustration BA at Middlesex University. My name is Martin Ursel, and I'm one of the lecturers on the BA, and I'd like to go around the screen and just introduce everybody who's here. So I'm going to go around in the order it is on my screen, so it might be different on your screen. So first to my right is, in the little cat with the headphones, is Martina, and Martina is a second-year student. And then beneath Martina is Edward, and Edward is a first-year student on our course. And then next to Edward is Tom in the rather fetching maroon shirt. That is Tom, and Tom is a third-year student. And then coming across from Tom, there is Matt. And Matt is one of our GAAs, and that just means somebody who helps us a lot, who we couldn't do without on the course. And Matt was also a student on the BA some years back, a few years back. And then down in the bottom there with the hat on and the glasses is Louise. And
Hi.
Louise is the first year tutor. Louise looks after the first year and does some teaching on the third year as well. So that's the team. So I thought they're going to show you lots of exciting things and all that kind of stuff, which I'm not going to do. I'm just going to talk. And I thought it would be nice to give a little brief introduction of what our course is like. So on the degree at Middlesex, the first thing I would like to say is we are a full-time course. So we tutor and staff every single day of the week, 5 days a week. So when you're looking around at other courses, you'll probably notice that some courses staff 2 days, 3 days, whatever. We staff 5 days. So that's the first thing I'd like to say. The second thing is every student gets their own workspace. We're all in the same studio, which is here in the Grove building, where most of us are. And you get your own space that's yours, where you can sit and work, and you can be there with your fellow students. So that's another big thing of Middlesex. Coming along, one of the things with us is we are all practicing illustrators. So all of the staff have their own illustration practice, which in some cases, is gone on for many years, and in other cases, maybe not so long, but we all have a practice. So that again informs how we tutor the course, because we're teaching from a point of experience, really, and doing the very thing that you're learning to do as well. So we're all quite well informed on illustration and what it's like working on live projects. We divide the course into a series of different things. So in the first year particularly, Louise will take you through all different kinds of illustration: editorial, narrative illustration, advertising, reportage, drawing. She'll take you through all those different kinds of illustration. And on top of that, she'll offer some rotations in animation and in printmaking, where again, you would look at lots of different kinds of print: lino and etching and silkscreen, lithography, all kinds of different print forms in that first year. The second year, when you come onto the second year, the course is more about you developing some of the things you've learned with Louise, especially the things you've been interested in, and getting better and better at those. The projects are more open-ended, and usually in the second year, most students work on their own particular kind of narrative within the project. So they adapt the project to suit themselves. In the third year, with Nancy, who isn't here today, Nancy Slonims, who's the program leader. In the third year with Nancy, Nancy works specifically with you to kind of work out your process and to really develop that and get you ready for working outside in the professional world. Now, one of the things that runs through all of those 3 years, which we're really, really big on at Middlesex, is drawing. We're all big drawers. And life drawing with Aldous Evely and Susan Light runs through all 3 years. So that's an absolute key to our course, really. Okay, throughout the 3 years, we have live projects, we have trips, we have visits, we all go drawing, staff as well, at museums and galleries, different places. And actually, Louise is going to tell you about exactly that in a minute. Before COVID, we actually did used to go away on a trip each year as well to, Vienna, New York, Madrid, wherever it was, all those places we've been to. Obviously, COVID kind of put the kibosh on that a bit. But maybe again, once we can get out of the COVID nightmare, we might return to that as well, trip. I think very important, where all the staff draw and share a kind of new experience. So that really is the course in a nutshell. So I'm now going to hand you over to Louise, and Louise is going to talk about a specific project. Louise.
Hello. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, just a minute. Okay, I'm hoping that you can all see that and it looks beautiful. So yeah, my name is Louise Weir and I'm head of first year. I'll be looking after you when you start the course, and today I'm going to introduce you to a project from the second semester which Edward has just finished, and the module is called Forest, Folklore and Fairy Tale. So this is a 4-week project where students are asked to produce a final outcome that is either 3D or animation in response to a text that's centered around the forest. During this project, students explore a variety of different processes. We visit forests and woods for a drawing field trip, and sometimes we get to exhibit the work as well, depending on what galleries are available. The majority of slides that I'll show today will be work that the first years have produced for this project. And at the moment, I'm showing you a paper cut diorama box that was done by Ronaldo. And he made this completely from scratch with these paper cuts, layering them. And if you look very closely, you can see a lion's head in the center. Yeah, so a lot of very varied responses. So yeah, within this project, like I said, one of the key experiences is a trip to Epping Forest or Hampstead Heath or Highgate Woods. Yeah, like Martin said, we really encourage students to draw, and on this trip, I encourage people to draw with very different media than you might be used to, and to use expressive marks on large sheets of paper. Here are some of the drawings that were done in Epping Forest around Loughton Camp. A lot of ancient trees there. Students were using lots of different materials. I think on some of these people are even using earth and kind of puddle water. So, whatever comes to hand, we encourage people to use it. Here's one of the exhibitions that we staged with student work and my work. And here's some of the 3D pieces and sketchbooks in one of the presentation areas. So during this project, we discuss a wide range of contemporary and historical writers, makers, artists, and illustrators that can direct and possibly inform your choice of interpretations and aesthetic. As always, we always stress on the aspect of storytelling and its influence and close relationship with the making of the visual. This will include analysis of the narrative and examining how it can be exploited to its full potential in a visual way that's, that is original to you. This slide shows a theatre production of Howell's Forest Castle at the Southwark Playhouse. So I included this because I wanted to show you that it's not just illustration examples that we show you. We draw our visual inspiration from a wide and broad spectrum. Each year we go on a drawing field trip. We visit places like Pollock's Toy Museums, which has a wealth of resources for students who want to develop their work in a 3D format, such as paper theatres, shadow boxes, puppets and games. This is Clive Hicks Jenkins. It's his Hansel and Gretel paper theatre. And Clive's work crosses the boundaries of performance and illustration. And I just think he's a very interesting example of illustrators who have their kind of homes in different camps. This is one of my drawings. I feed back much of the experience and knowledge that I've gained from my own practice into the design and delivery of the projects at Middlesex. I've been a practicing illustrator for many years, working for a wide range of international clients. In addition to that, I exhibit in regular solo and group shows. I'm a keen sketchbooker. Much of my work has observational drawing and reportage at its core, and this is something that is a key part of the illustration course at Middlesex, and I bang on to students about it all the time. So that's something that you'll be hearing from me. In the first year, I encourage students to extend their visual vocabulary by exploring a wide range of processes, media and approaches. So this is one of my pictures as well. This is me drawing out in the field. So during this project, I introduced students to the 3D area, to the ceramics area, and the photography area, so that they can make use of the fabulous facilities. Students are encouraged to explore their work through print in the print studios and at home. Yeah, so drawing together and sharing how we respond to our surroundings is a very important part of learning at Middlesex. I really enjoy seeing the variety of outcomes, approaches and techniques students make, especially when they're using similar materials and resources. During this project, many students used natural materials they found on site, such as sticks and feathers, as stools, and experimented with how far they could push materials such as ink, wax relief, and even used earth and leaves in their pictures. I think it's really interesting when you take a group of people out drawing, you know, there's always somebody who climbs up a tree or somebody who gets in a different place. And I think it's important to see things from different perspectives, the opportunity to draw from up high or down low, you know, and during this trip, you know, we can definitely see the overlap. When one person starts doing something, another person will take that on board and have a go. So I think that's a really important part of the learning. Energetic marks responding to the landscape. Students are encouraged to bring a variety of media and immerse themselves in the experience of drawing the landscape. Yeah, here's Roanna drawing with wax relief and watercolor. I think, do we see that in this slide? Yeah, so that's what she was doing on site. So I think it's really interesting being in different places, in different weathers. Like Martin said, we go on trips abroad. All these sorts of things act as inspiration and motivate us to kind of move our work on in different directions. I think, you know, drawing can be a very social as well as solitary activity, and it's always good to have some company. And that's something that when we're on the trips, I find it's really, you know, people make new friendships, especially when we go on the foreign trips with all 3 years. And yeah, I think that's a really important part of going out and about. This is a final outcome for the project by Yu Ling. She chose the text from Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark. This was a set of ceramics by Asia for the folklore poem Oak, Ash and Thorn. And these were produced in the ceramics department at Middlesex. This was an animation called The Green Man by Emma Raven. She used a digital process. It was really interesting. You'll be seeing this in a minute. This is an animation by Tom Atkins. He's going to talk about this today. And this is by Martina, and she's also going to talk about this today. So just a few more drawings of mine at the end. And yeah, these were all exhibited at the gallery next to Epping Forest. So that was kind of a personal introduction I had to give the students as well for that exhibition. So I'll just finish that up now, and I will stop that share, and I will just find where the one is with Edward. Sorry, lots of things open on this screen. So I will just go to, oh, I probably have to stop share, don't I? And share screen again, sorry. Here we go. So I will just into full screen for this. Turn up the volume. And this is Edward's, and Edward's going to have a chat about this when this is finished. Okay. Okay, I'll just stop that. And if Edward, do you want to have a little chat about that?
A lot of the animation was kind of like half of it was also the sound. So unfortunately, like kind of Zoom, it sort of messes up. But
oh, sorry about that.
But it's okay. So for this project, it was kind of clear from the start that it would be a very like time-intensive project because we only have 4 weeks, and kind of 4 weeks kind of goes by really quickly. So for this, I chose to do animation, and so from like the start, I had to do a lot of like idea generation and like thumbnails. Although that doesn't take much time, but usually at the start of a project like this, it's usually quite good to kind of get everything down in a sketchbook. So these were all from like the first day of getting the brief, just kind of making sense of everything, just so that by the time I reach the later stages, I won't have to kind of think of everything last minute. So all of this is kind of from the Green Man. I think the Green Man in general has like this really eerie kind of aesthetic to it, which I really liked compared to the other writings. It's also quite, I wanted to take like an unconventional way of representing the Green Man. And usually with all the texts, it's all about the man and the forest. And it's usually two separate things. So I wanted to try and have something that was more suggestive or like kind of abstract. So because it was going to be 4 weeks, I had to really get everything down and plan it out. But also the workshops they have here at the uni also are really helpful. And I think without the workshops, I probably would not have decided to make it. But so I did a lot of kind of getting the elements down of the animation, figuring out what the style would be. And I think it was around this time that we went on the trip to Hampstead Heath to do the drawings. And that also helped as well, because at that time I was still figuring out the backgrounds and kind of the style of what it would all be, because obviously the character's very much kind of a sketchy style. But I remember it being very stressful, but obviously planning a lot is quite helpful. But yeah, it's kind of good to start really early and work really fast. So that's pretty much how it went for me.
Yeah, I remember you saying, Edward, how helpful it was talking to Des in the animation sessions. So that was kind of really good timing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was also coincidental because like people in my year as well who were on the animation workshop, when they got presented the brief, they also ended up doing animation. So there was quite a few of us who kind of latched on to
that's all
animation.
designed. That's all designed. Yeah. So you're doing it.
Yeah.
So you'll have done the animation by the time that project comes along. But great. Okay, lovely. So I will get Martina's and share that. Hopefully the sound will play for this one. Lovely. Oops. So, okay. So Martina, over to you.
Yeah, so the sound didn't play very well, but it's okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, it was just music anyway. So yeah, as far as I remember, of course, it started with like a lot of like sketching, like thinking about what I want my characters to look like. Yeah, and everything was made from paper. And I did it in stop motion. It was my first time doing stop motion because I did just do the animation before. So it was interesting experience to do that. And yeah, I remember how I wanted to just do a story, just simple narrative. And yeah, I made it a little bit different from maybe what people see a Green Man, like not something scary, but something actually we don't really understand. But when you look into it, it actually could be nice and friendly. And yeah, I remember when I was in the first year and I did this project, I was at home because it was COVID and we couldn't go to the studio. So I basically did everything just on my table filming with my phone. So it was a little bit challenging, but I'm usually very determined with my work. And I think it came out the way I imagined it will. So yeah, I think it was all right. It wasn't that much of an issue that I couldn't be in the studio, but of course it would have been much better, I think.
I think the work done by all of your year during COVID was kind of excellent. You know, it's like we were worried about how people will cope working in isolation, but we managed to have quite a good support network, didn't you, with your group chats, and kind of we had regular tutorials, and it was difficult, but I don't think the standard of the work really suffered that much. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts were really, but I thought it was a really high standard. Yeah. But it's great. I love the Green Man. He's, you know, the way he's cut round and his characterization, like it's so different from Edward's, you know. So I think that's what's really interesting about this project. You can give two people the same thing and they kind of come up with something totally different. So it's really interesting to see those together. Okay, so now I'm going to play Tom. So I'll just put this to full screen. Hopefully the sound is okay.
In the middle of the journey of our life, I kept myself in a dark wood where the direct waves. It is a hard thing to speak, how wild, harsh, and impenetrable that wood is, so that thinking of it recreates the thing. It is scarcely less bitter than death, but in order to tell of the good that I found there, I must tell the other things I saw. I cannot rightly say how I entered. I was so full of sleep at that point where I abandoned the tree way. But when I reached the foot of a hill, where the valley that had pierced my heart with fear came to an end, I looked up, saw its shoulders brighten with the rays of that sun that leads men brightly on every road. Then the fear that had settled in the lake of my heart, through the night that I had spent so miserably, became a little calm. And as a man, with panting breath, had escaped from the deep sea to the shore, turns back towards the perilous waters and stares, so my mind, still fugitive, turned back to see that past again, that no living person ever lived. After I'd rested my tired body a while, I made my way again over empty ground, always bearing upwards to the right, and behold, almost at the start of the slope, a light, swift, level, spotted captain. Did not turn from before my face, so obstructed my path that I often turned in order to return. The time was at the beginning of the morning, and the sun was mounting up with all those stars that were with him when divine love first moved all delightful things, so that the hour of day and the sweet season gave me fair hopes of that creature with the bright bed. But not so fair that I could avoid fear at the sight of a lion that appeared and seemed to come in, with raised head and rabbit eye, that it seemed the air itself was afraid, and a shield that looked full of craving in its leanness, and before now has made many men live in sadness. She brought me such heaviness and fear from the aspect of her face that I lost all hope of assent, and as one who is eager for gain weeps, is afflicted in his thoughts. The moment arrives when he loses, so that the creature without rest made me like him, and in coming at me little by little, drove me back to where the sun is set.
Great. Okay. So over to you, Tom. Yeah.
I'd say it certainly highlights that you get better with time on the course.
I think it's still good.
Yeah, I think it's evident that the course, I can only apologize, I'm being punished by the sun for some reason. It highlights the kind of exposure therapy of the course, because that was the first animation that I've ever done. And then about, I think it was the third week of that, we went off for COVID lockdown. Well, we sort of started going, yeah, maybe you should start going home and whatnot. But yeah, it was 2 years ago, so I'm trying to think of the other things I remember of it.
I remember you were really ambitious at the start of the project, and I think to do 3 minutes of moving image is, you know, was it your first animation?
Yeah, because something happened with Des at the same time, I think. So we'd had a couple of sessions with Des, but it was then kind of I think most of it was done with Des's instructions, and then some of it was home-based COVID reliant.
I remember you built a little set, didn't you? And you filmed it and you spliced it together. And I think
so it was that with stop motion, and then I was combining it with trying to get my head around
yeah, and you had the sound,
things.
you know, you had speaking as well. So there's a lot that you had to get right, and you did plan it quite meticulously at the time, I remember.
Yeah, and it was recording all the music for it as well.
Yeah,
I think I'm just a bit of a masochist at this point. Just do all the work, do all the things.
Yeah, and you had all your drawing, you know, your drawing is really lovely, and that all worked really well. So do you remember did you go on a drawing trip, or did you do that on your own? And we kind of did a virtual one, I think, didn't we, where everyone went off and drew in the woods? Was that right, or was that?
I think it was planned to go to Epping Forest, and then it didn't happen that year because I think it was either COVID or the weather, one of the two. I think it got postponed, and then it all sort of
but yeah, I think, you know, your sketchbooks and your drawing definitely had a really big impact on that project. And like you say, it was quite intensive, and you did try a few things that didn't make the cut, I seem to remember as well. There was quite a lot of editing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were experimenting and exploring different things. And I think that's a really big part of the first year that maybe people forget when they get to the second and third year, is how many things they did try and how that kind of put them on their visual journey in the first year. Because it's like you've got to kind of try things before you really discover which way you're going to go, I think. I mean, that's what I always think when I look at people. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, and it helps with the kind of ethos of the course of finding your own way of doing things, or your creative language that you want to speak in, especially with the first year, because you do so much of various things, and you kind of go, I like these bits, I can use them with this, and sort of put yourself together a bit. And you can refine through second and third year.
Yeah. Good. And how are you enjoying the third year at the moment?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's kind of, it's definitely teaching to a level where you'd want it. So it's kind of, you're learning the same way that you would be working in the real world, as opposed to sort of being told you can kind of do this or kind of do this. You're sort of given things in a way that is professional. So it's very much all professional learning.
Yeah, good. So I think it's interesting how it changes over the 3 years to kind of get you ready to enter that professional environment. Yeah, okay. All right, well, thanks, Tom. So now we're going to speak to Matt. Are you okay to share your screen and everything, Matt?
Yeah, I can do that. No problem.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll go on mute, and so I don't.
Great. Okay, so hi, my name's Matt, and I studied on the BA illustration at Middlesex and I graduated back in 2016. And since then I've been working initially when I graduated, I got a job working in-house at a design agency in London, working in-house as an illustrator. working on like multiple branding campaigns. We mainly created illustration work for like alcohol brands primarily, but also other sort of fast moving commercial goods, which is kind of stuff like deodorants and like coffee and sort of stuff that is you generally has one usage. And I worked there for about 2.5 years, and I sort of learnt the ropes of working in a studio and working to tight deadlines and kind of quick turnarounds. Also, we were expected to produce a lot of work as well. So we would, you know, the briefs generally called for us to produce illustrations that covered multiple routes, and those routes would have been sort of assigned by the designers according to the designer's needs. Yeah, so I was there for 2.5 years. It was a really good experience, but then I kind of started getting the itch to get out and start doing some of my own stuff, and so I made the leap into freelance. And that was 2019. No, yeah, 2019. And since then, I've kind of been lucky enough to work on some really nice jobs. I'm about to share my screen with you. And one of those jobs, yeah, here we go. One of those jobs was this job that I got to do for a film for Sky Cinema, which was called To Olivia, and it's still on Sky. You can see it right now. And basically, I'll just show you. So it's about like what the director wanted was a title sequence that kind of gave an idea of how two of the main characters kind of met, because we get into at the start of the film, we're at a point where they're quite far on in the film in their lives, and it's actually about Roald Dahl and Patricia Neal, who were husband and wife, and sort of they wanted to show how they kind of grew up in a very stylized way, and then how we get to the point where they begin the film at. And so we were going for something kind of like Saul Bass style illustrations, which was very heavily influenced by the 60s title sequences. And yeah, it was just a story that kind of like played out. The job took me about, I think it was like 4 months to do it. I actually got it during COVID, and I can show you some of the animation here. I actually got it during COVID, not whilst I had COVID, but like over the COVID period. And yeah, so it was kind of nice to have that to sort of like see me through that long sort of period. And yeah, it took me about 4 months. I was working on it for like 12 hours a day. Yeah, so here's just kind of like some of the animation, all sort of, you know, animated by me. It was a long and arduous process. Yeah, I'll see. We can move kind of forwards a little bit on some of this. I don't have to watch it all. I think there's an awful lot of animation that's been watched, so try and speed through this quickly. But yeah, so with title sequences, it's just about making sure that you get kind of the, you know, obviously everyone's names are in it, but also we wanted something that was kind of quite stylized and interesting to watch at the start of the film. Yeah, and I think it was well received from my understanding. The film recently opened the Annapolis Film Festival in California, and there was a Q&A, and I believe that some of the sort of participants were you know enjoyed the title sequence. So it definitely, I think, helps to lift the film. Anyway, that's enough of that. Sorry, I'm just trying to move my thing around. There we go. So yeah, but also, so when I was this is some of my more illustrative work. So this was my project that I did for my kind of final third year on the BA course. It was like 6, what is it? I've got 5 portraits from Times of the Wars of the Roses. And I painted them quite large. They were like, when we printed them out, they were 1 meter by 1.5 meters. They're all painted digitally, but I wanted to go for something that had a sort of traditional feel. And yeah, and I feel like they were a success. And it was actually these that were kind of fairly influential in helping me get the job as an in-house illustrator at that brand agency that I spoke about. Yeah, where are we at now? And then then there's been other jobs. I sort of do a lot of portrait work, and I also do kind of the branding work as well still. This is a job for Kestrel Beers, and I've recently got another job coming from them actually, which is quite exciting. I've recently got briefed on that. And also I've done some work for like Johnny Walker and Talisker recently, which are again sort of like within the branding field. So yeah, so that's kind of like where I've had a lot of my experience. And alongside that, I also do sort of like paintings, sort of yeah, I'm very much into my my kind of oil painting and sort of like drawings and stuff like that. So I've done kind of, I've studied, I take studying very seriously. I think that it's important to, you know, even after graduating, to continue studying. And you know, and that's definitely like been a massive help in continuing to further my illustration practice. So yeah, I'm just gonna stop it there, and yeah, I hope maybe you got something out of that, what it's like to sort of, you know, once you graduate, what you can kind of look forward to. So yeah, I'll just hand back to Martin and Louise now.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Tom and Edward and Martina and Louise as well. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, so that gives you a little idea of some of the things we do on the degree and what we're about here at Middlesex. Does anybody have any questions they would like to ask or anything they would like to follow up with? If you do, you're welcome to put those in the chat. And then one of us or two of us can answer those questions if you have any. If not, I think if you think maybe we covered everything there, that's absolutely fine. But I'll just give a few seconds just to see if anything's going to come in. And I'll tell you what, while we're giving those few seconds, is there anything's going to come on? Tom, in your narration there, was that Joseph?
It was, yeah.
I thought it was. My goodness, he did that really well.
Yeah, well, his dad does it professionally, doesn't he?
I didn't know that. Yeah, actually, I did know that his dad does audiobooks. Yeah, so I did. Yeah,
and then you hear his voice and you're like, yeah, you need to be a voiceover, really.
Because when you showed that before, I didn't realize, I didn't know him then, but of course, because he was with animation, but now he's with us, of course, I recognize his work. Okay, guys, well, look, you've obviously had enough of us there because there's no questions going in the chat. So look, thank you all for joining us. And I think that's probably enough. Hope to see you at Middlesex soon.
Yeah, thanks again. Okay, bye. Bye.